Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Calvin Starr, and you're joining us for our webinar series on A Year of Growing Rich based on Napoleon Hill's book, 52 Steps to Achieving Life's Rewards. And this is a great book, and it's a great add-on to the book, Think and Grow Rich, because this breaks it down, because most people want to get rich quick, and ultimately it's you can get rich quick, but then you can lose it rich quick too if you don't have the mindset. And so we're in this for the long haul. We're at chapter 4, week 4. We'll be taking this every single week, chapter by chapter, and studying it. And the idea behind this is that you're going to read this, watch this webinar, and then read the chapter over and over and over again to kind of let it sink into your brain, because repetition is the mother of all skill, which is one of the reasons why we go into the integration part of this, which is we cover the last 3 to 4 weeks of the information and reintegrate it into our brains, because as we learn new things, other things just kind of get lost up in there. And so we want to bring it back to our focus and our attention to integrate it into our character, personality, our success traits, because you can learn this information, but you have to keep applying it and keep repeating it in order to really know it. And there's a difference between knowing and actually doing and all of these different things. So we're going to take as much time as we need to every single week to go back 3 to 4 weeks, and remember and recall the information so that it becomes integrated here. Okay, so let's go into that. This chapter 4, week 4, is about some succeed, others fail, why? Okay, but let's recap first. Let's go back to week number 1, which was no one drifts to success. And this is a powerful one, because so many of us get distracted by Facebook, YouTube, all these different things that we get lost. We start one thing. How many times have you done this? Because I've done it a lot. You go to your computer to do something, a very specific task, and then 35 minutes later you think to myself, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What was I going to do? And you totally forget, because we get so distracted and we kind of drift off here and drift off there. This chapter was about things like that, but also knowing that you're not going to really achieve strong success and repeating success if you keep jumping from one company to another company to another product to another product. And like, you've got to focus like a laser and really drive home that discipline in order to create the results that you're looking for. Then we go into week number 2, which was learn how to live your own life. And this is a very powerful message for most people, because we want to try and seek the approval or make everybody happy, and we end up not living our life. And so what you need to learn to redo is to learn to live your own life, which is make your own decisions based upon what you want, not what you believe other people want you to want, or that you believe that your parents think you should be, or that your spouse thinks you should be, or that your kids think you should be. What do you want? That's the question that you have to start asking yourself, is why am I doing this? Am I really doing this because I'm fulfilled and excited and passionate about doing it? Or are you doing it because of some other rule that was there that you don't even know why it's there? Like Steve Jobs says, we live our lives based upon the rules and beliefs of so many other people, countless people that we don't even know, because that's basically what society is today, is a bunch of rules that somebody felt like, well, I need to make this rule and make it permanent, and so this is the way we're going to have things be. All right? So we're talking about recreating your own life to live your own life so that it makes you fulfilled and happy and passionate again. Then week number 3 was motivate yourself to achieve success. And I've kind of changed this, because motivation is fear driven, and it's based upon you have to do something. You're motivated to do something to get out of a situation or out of a circumstance, or to get away from something. You're motivated to move. But I want to inspire yourself to achieve. I want you to be inspired. Inspiration comes from within. Again, I think if you go back to week 2, chapter 2, learn how to live your own life, you will become inspired to do things that maybe you have struggled to do in the past. And you'll have creative ideas and new ideas and all of this stuff that's going on. So that's the excitement about what we're talking about here. And it's talking about motivating yourself to achieve success, because nobody else is going to do it. You have to figure out how to achieve your own success. And it's something that you can do with your kids. It's something that you can do with yourself, your spouse, everybody. Inspire them. One of the things that we have to do as a society and parents is to really inspire our kids to want to be able to do things on their own and be self-sufficient and become dependent or independent, because they have learned And we have been taught that we're almost like we're coddling them in some way. We do everything for them. We protect them from everything. We think everything is going to hurt them. And, back in the day, I mean, you remember growing up, I'm 44 years old, so I was born in 72. And, I remember walking to school and not seeing my parents in the morning, not seeing them in the afternoon, not seeing them in the evening, making my own dinner. And I was like 10 years old, where today it's like, at 16, you're still, self-serving them in bed because you don't want them to hurt themselves or burn themselves. And it's like, I mean, I burnt my wrist making food. I've done everything I could to probably harm myself as a kid. I remember sticking 2 wires into a light socket to see if it would light a light bulb, and it blew up in my face. I mean, we do things and we learn, and they make impressions, and that's how we become who we are. So you've got to inspire that by allowing other people to do things for themselves, and that will help them achieve the success that we're all looking for. And then that's this week. Some succeed, others fail. Why? And the reason for that is your story. Okay, it's your story, the story that you tell. What story am I talking about? That one, the one that you tell about why you're not successful, why you haven't achieved what you haven't achieved, or what the circumstances of your life are. That's your story. You've got to give yourself a story to tell. If you're not telling a great story, then you're telling your pity party story about why it is the way it is, and this and that. And you'll find out who you really are by just evaluating your story. And I've worked with so many people and leaders on this, because you can't keep telling the same story and expect to get results based on that. You've got to change your story. You've got to paint the picture for people and yourself to get out of that place. So, and I talk about this because this is something I did when I was building a network marketing company as an affiliate or a distributor. Is I remember driving across the country, sleeping in my car, doing whatever I had to do to make sure I made meetings. So I'm telling you this because it's really a powerful thing to help you create your own story. And that's what I usually tell people when they come to me with something that's been horribly wrong or something bad has happened. I said, great, it's going to be a great part of your story so that when you're up on stage, you're able to share that. So drive across country, sleep in your car, eat ramen noodles, do whatever you have to do. Just make it to your next company event. Really understand that you've got to start to show up. Okay, it's like Zig Ziglar said, show up to go up, right? You've got to make it to these events, because that was the one thing that I taught people as a leader, as an executive with network marketing companies. Events are the lifeblood, the spine of a company and an organization. So you've got to make it there. And why? Because you're going to see other people's successes. You're going to see other people's stories. You're going to get inspired, because it's going to pick at something deep down within you that's going to make you go, oh my gosh, I can do this. And I've seen it over and over and over again, where people show up to an event, they've never had success, and they hear something and it sparks something within them. That fan, that little flame inside gets fanned a little bit, and it starts to go into a roaring fire. And all happens at an event. Even your little, parties that you may have at home, or you do an opportunity meeting in a hotel or at home or whatever it is, make sure you go to those, and because you will one day be inspired to either tell your story or to hear somebody else's. And that's why. So many people love to hear the stories of others, okay? So many people. We all love to hear people's stories because it gives us that sense of hope. And, you become a hope broker. You're brokering out people's hope, because most people are having challenges. They're struggling in a relationship or financially or with life. And so they want to hear those stories of hope of other people of breaking through. And the thing is that story exists in you, okay? That story exists in you. Even if it hasn't happened for you, it still exists in you. So you have to ask yourself this question. What are you willing to do for it to come out? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to show up? Are you willing to just make plans and go for it without really figuring it out completely? Are you willing to just put yourself all into something so that you can create the success that you want? Are you willing not to have everything figured out and just go, you know what, I'm going to do this because it feels right and I'm inspired to do it? That's what we're looking for. That's going to help you create the story. The story doesn't come from you going, well, that's a really great idea and I think I could really do this, but let me go ahead and spend the next couple of months thinking about it. That's not going to create your story, okay? That's going to just kind of prolong this process, that struggle, and the suffering that you're going through. So you've got to be willing to put yourself into the story. Stop watching from the safety of the sidelines and get on the field. And I love that analogy because most people do. They sit in the bleachers and they watch. And they're watching everybody else do all their stuff. And I used to do it too. I used to watch people on Facebook and, and all that kind of stuff. And then I started to go, you know what? I'm going to start doing calls. I'm going to start doing webinars. And then that little picture of me down here in the corner right there, right over there somewhere, that was a tough one for me too. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to get in the game. I'm just going to be myself, show myself, and put myself out there and get on the field and play, right? So you never score from the bleachers. Remember that. Now, and it's fascinating because you would think that some people feel like they do or think that they do because they're screaming, hollering, cheering, being mad, pissed off, whatever. But realize that you will never score from the bleachers in what they call the game of life. Ask yourself, and here's a great question. Have you failed today? Have you failed today? If you have not failed, then you are not trying. You are watching, okay? If you're going to fail, you're going to be on that path towards success. And all those great books out there about, the no's, go for no, because it's going to get you to yes. You're not going to experience life as one big no. And you're not going to experience life as one big failure. If you keep trying and trying, and what's fascinating is the number of people that talk about it and that admit to it, like your Steve Jobs, your Bill Gates, all these people, Colonel Sanders with Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's like they tried over in Disney over and over and over and over again, and they said we're told no, and their idea was stupid and this and that, and then finally it clicked. And everybody has to do that. You have to fail in order to achieve success. You are living in the bleachers if you have not tried something new. So if you're one of those people that hasn't tried anything new, you're living in the bleachers. You're not in the game. Okay, how do I know this? Because I know that you want something more than what you have right now, and that means that you have to do something new, something different, like Einstein says, okay? The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over again and expect something different, right? So you've got to do something different if you want something different. You can't keep working at the same job and not doing anything on the side and expect that the job is going to take care of you. I mean, it's great. I guess there's the big news today is that there's 296,000 more jobs, but those are people working for people that got on the games and got into the game of life and said, you know what, I'm going to make something happen. I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to create jobs. That's basically where jobs come from. Okay, so you've got to do something new if you want something different. That means you have to fail to get there, because it's just like anything else. You're going to fail at it until you become good at it, and then you're still going to fail. I mean, look at baseball, right? My son was asking me because he was doing a project on Hank for Black History Month. I don't remember his last name, but the thing was, he came to me, he goes, was this guy any good? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, his batting average was like 298.298. I mean, he goes, that's terrible. I said, no, in baseball, like a 30% batting average, hitting just 3 balls out of every 10 that you're pitched is incredible. And they get paid millions of dollars, and they fail 70% of the time when it comes to their batting average. And he was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So the truth of that is that if you're not failing today or tomorrow, then you are not going to get there. If you're not swinging for the base hit or the home run or whatever it is, you're not attempting anything. You're not trying to fail. And so you've got to do that today, or you're never going to get to where you're going. Okay? This gives a whole new meaning to the word failure, doesn't it? So it's kind of crazy because I remember reading stories about this where people teach their kids, don't fail, don't fail, don't fail. But ultimately we want to encourage them to fail, but it's about changing the attitude about failure, not taking it on and making it horrible and miserable, but really creating that failure that says, you know what, I tried something new, and so that's exciting, and I learned something, right? Question is, but how did we get to where we are right now? Why is failure such a bad thing for people? Why is it such a bad thing for people? We failed our way there, to eat, to talk, to drive, to walk, to learn, to think, to be, to do anything that we are right now. We failed our way there. When you remember, some of our kids still, I've got 8, 11, and a 14-year-old. And, sometimes I look at the placemats and the food and on the floor and I go, are they still failing to learn how to eat? But you remember the first time you used a fork or a spoon, it's like you had it all over your face and it's just like, right? It's like you had to make mistakes and fail in order to learn hand-eye coordination, depth perception, and how to, the motoring skills on how to put stuff in your mouth using this object. And yet, we forget that that's how we learn everything. To read, to write, to drive, like it's talking about. Everything we did was a huge failure until we created the success in our lives. So think about that, because as you're struggling and as you're failing in business and making those phone calls and getting all your no's, it's okay. You're on your way, and you just have to stay focused on what it is you ultimately want. Just like walking. You fell down. Sometimes we still even fall, trip and fall, but it's always about what we're willing to do. Are we willing to get back up and keep trying until we master it? Absolutely. And that's what you have to do in your business. But somewhere along the way, someone told us that failure was a bad thing. It's just the way it is. And so we stopped wanting to fail and we stopped learning and growing. And that's something, I think it comes from peer pressure and growing up and starting to develop our egos about what people think. Like my son's so cute. It's like he's 14 now. Something. It's like he's got to have the hair gel. Everything's got to be in perfect place. He's got to have it's like, Dad, there's any hair sticking up in the back? And I'm like, no, it's fine. And they really want to make sure that everybody sees them as a success or, as perfect. And it's like, it's okay to be not perfect. So sometimes I grab him and drag him out and take him somewhere and he doesn't have time to fix his hair. And it's like just teaching him it's okay. And the truth of it is that we're more worried about what we look like compared to what people even care. I mean, how many people could you recall from this week alone that, was somebody that didn't look good or did look good, right? So you've got to remember that. Get this music back on. But you've got to remember that most people are more concerned with themselves rather than looking at you and worrying about what you look like. So stop worrying about looking bad or failing. Most people are so focused on their own failures and their own looks that they don't care, okay? The wisest man has made the most mistakes. That's one thing that you need to remember. The other thing is the most successful man has had the most failures. And this is from the book, so it's man or woman. I know people out there going, what about women, right? But the wisest woman has made the most mistakes, and the wisest woman, successful woman, has made the most failures. Everybody does it, and so you've got to just kind of toss it to the wind and say, you know what, I'm going to fail. I'm going to make mistakes. The second paragraph in this chapter, know what you want, have a plan to achieve it, believe in your ability, and devote time to it. So ask yourself this, okay? So know what you want, have a plan to achieve it, believe in your ability, and devote time to it. Those are the 4 things that you need to focus on. And then once you have those things and write them out, number 1, know what you want. Number 2, plan to achieve it. Number 3, believe in your ability. Number 4, devote time to it. And then ask yourself, what pieces are you missing? The story goes, Edison failed 10,000 times to create the light bulb. 10,000 times. I mean, it's crazy, but he had to keep track of how many ways he couldn't do it because he didn't want to repeat himself. And he said, when he was asked, he said that he learned over 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. So he was like, oh my gosh, you failed 10,000 times. What made you forget to give up? It's like, what do? You don't worry about it. You just say, you know what, that's 10,000 ways I know not to do it. And then 3M Corporation created the Post-it note when they were trying to develop the strongest glue. So they were trying to create this massive, amazing glue that was going to be the stickiest glue in the world. And then they ended up creating Post-it notes, which is those ones you can just peel on and stick on, peel on and stick on, off and on, off and on, off and on. So they took a failure and turned it into a raging success. So have faith and trust that that you have whatever it takes to create the financial freedom that you want, but it can only get yourself there. Okay, so have faith. When you're failing, just smile and know that you're on the right path and that everything is perfect and that you are creating the success that you want. It's just it's going to be riddled with failure along the way, and that's okay because those failures are part of your success. So why not keep failing until you get there, right? Why not? I mean, that's the only way you're going to get there anyways. Like I remember the stories about rockets. It's like only 3% of the time is a rocket on course to its target. It's having to constantly correct itself from failing of going off in one direction. So you will not fail to your success, or not fail to your financial freedom. If you continue to try, you will create the success that you're looking for, because it's just in our human nature. It's part of evolution. You will understand why you're failing and what's going on, and you will make the corrections consciously, unconsciously, systematically, strategically. Something you will do to say, you know what, I'm making this mistake over and over again. Even patterns in relationships and patterns with our life and with business and business partners. We all make those patterns, and it's like over and over and over again. And you finally go, okay, you know what? I know exactly what I need to do now. It is inevitable. What is the harm in trying? Why have people turned against even trying? Okay. Our goal is to help people, and this is as a goal of network marketers, entrepreneurs, whatever it is that you are. Our goal is to help people to want to fail again and not just be a failure. So if you're moving forward and you're failing, you're not a failure. You're failing. You're making progress to your success. But if you quit, then it's saying that you're a failure. So if you quit, you're a failure because you ultimately have given up. So if you don't give up and you continue to move forward, you will ultimately find that right path and create the success that you're looking for. So a failure is someone who's given up. So remember that. So don't give up. And if you are not afraid of failing, then you will never be a failure. So if you're not afraid of failing, meaning that you'll continue to try and to keep doing things, then you will never be a failure. Take a stand for someone. Okay, this is why when I'm working with people, I'll ask them, put down 5 names of the people that you are committed to helping create $1,000 a month in residual business or residual income in your business. So if I was working with you, let's say that I was working with you, you did one of my sponsorship courses, it's like $500 a month. And I work with you personally to kind of go through this process. I would tell you, hey, listen, let's write down 5 people that are in your organization that are working with you and that you want to help them create $1,000 a month residual income in your business. That's the first step, because I want you to create that. I want you to take that stand for somebody, because when you do something enough for somebody else, it's going to benefit you. It's going to make things work for you. And then, those are the people that you want to help remind what it's like to fail again. Let them know that failure is okay. You've got to do it in order to achieve the success. So how not to become a failure? Remember that success is not final, failing is not fatal, and it is the courage that continues to count. Okay, so success is not final. You're always going to create success, and then you're going to have failures, create more success, have failures. But failing is not fatal, and it is the courage that continues to count. It's the courage to keep going. It's the courage of Richard Branson to reach out into another industry and create $1 billion company. It's like, if he didn't have the courage, if he was afraid of failing, going, well, I've got this one company that's $1 billion. I don't want to go out and create success again because I might fail. Well, then he wouldn't have 8, right? So think of it in those terms, and remember people like that keep trying and keep wanting to make things happen to create that success for themselves. You're going to have to do it. Help yourself and others to find the courage with your company, okay? Help yourself and others to find the courage with your company. So really encourage people, and know that, you know what? Once you have this thought in your mind and this understanding that most people are afraid to fail, and if you can get them to have the courage to start failing again because it's a positive thing, it'll radically change the way you do your business. It'll radically change your organization. Everything will just go crazy. So what story will you create for yourself? What story will you create for yourself? And as Tony Robbins used to say, when is now a good time to start telling it? To start living it, like really create it, think about it, start telling it, living it, and going with it, and going out there and creating those failures to success. So thank you, and go fail at something. Have a great time, and remember to comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel here. I look forward to seeing you next week, and remember, read your chapter every single week and make it a great day.